Welcome to Team Talk from TeamKinetic, the podcast that takes a deeper dive into volunteer management, with me, Chris Martin. Welcome to Team Talk from TeamKinetic, the podcast that takes a deeper dive into volunteer management. On today's pod, my guest is Abi Froud, the volunteer coordinator from the Pankhurst Trust, incorporating Manchester Women's Aid. On the conversation today, me and Abi cover a whole range of subjects, from the impacts of COVID to the value of volunteers in heritage. So with no further ado, let's get straight into it and let us know what you think. So I guess we'll start right at the top. Can you tell me a little bit about the Pankhurst Trust and Manchester Women's Aid?
Yeah, so the Pankhurst Trust came together in 2014. It was the coming together of the Pankhurst Centre, which is the site of the first meeting of the WSPU, which is the Suffragette movement, and the previous home of the Pankhurst family. And from there, the house was almost demolished, and it was saved by a group of radical feminists in the 70s and 80s, and it was reopened as the Pankhurst Centre.
My grandma used to live on that street.
Oh, really?
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Oh,
She was born on that street where the house is. Yeah.
wow. Oh,
There we go.
what a connection.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's
She was
so
very proud of
cool.
that connection as well.
Yeah, we would be, wouldn't you? That's
Yeah, definitely.
what a sight. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. I'll let you. I'll let you.
Oh no, that's so interesting. That's so cool. So that's kind of the Pankhurst Centre. And then Manchester Women's Aid is a domestic abuse support charity. We support primarily women who have experienced domestic abuse. We do that through, learning and education, for support with GP surgeries, providing refuges, group work, counselling, pretty much you name it, we're doing it to support people who have experienced domestic abuse. And the two kind of organisations come together to make the Pankhurst Trust, that shared goal and that shared idea of, women's liberation, women support. So yeah, it's a very interesting blend. But yeah, that's kind of also in a nutshell.
So, I mean, just for so our other clients understand, you kind of have a foot in heritage with the museum and the centre, and you have a foot in, if you will, sort of women's social care, for lack of a better description. So it's a really interesting blend. How does that work in terms of your volunteers and the kind of things that they get up to?
Yeah, so our volunteers get up to all sorts, to be honest. We have some volunteers who do it all, who one day they're in a museum and the next day they're cooking lunch for a group of women. So some do it all, but some are kind of primarily based on the heritage side. So they're helping with the museum, they're helping with our school visits program, getting involved in kind of planning, thinking about what we could do as a museum to improve and move forward. And then on the MWA side, we have people, as I say, kind of like helping with group work, being phone buddies, being counsellors, helping with drop-in sessions that we do. So, having conversations with people, making nice hot lunches, running dance classes, running mindfulness classes, all sorts of fun stuff like that. And then kind of really practical help as well, helping at our refuges, helping people move in and move out. So really all sorts. And some people, they sit across both sides and do both. And some people, their kind of passion's the history, or their passion is kind of the domestic abuse support.
How many volunteers are you working with at the moment?
Good question. Ever-changing answer. Let me double check. I think last time I submitted the data, it was about, you know what, I'm just going to double check before I say anything.
Yeah, no problem.
It's just very useful when you've got a system that helps you do that, isn't it?
Well, yeah, what a dream.
Sorry, say that again.
Um,
It just broke up then for a
100
second.
153.
Which
Um,
is which for the type of charity you are, which it's a small museum, and then it's quite targeted sort of
yeah.
work in the community. That's a good number of volunteers, because I should imagine there's some of those volunteers need quite a lot of sort of additional support and help to enable them to do their work.
Yeah, definitely. And we do provide training to those volunteers as well. We do actually need to make better use of the TeamKinetic training function. I've been looking into that the all day. Um, but yeah, I mean, I know we'll probably get on to talk about TeamKinetic, but like it's actually so helpful having just all of the information in one place, just being able to search it as a database. It's I think it's really changed the game for us, really.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. We will talk a little bit more about that in a second. I guess still trying to get to know you and your organisation a little bit. In terms of tell me a little bit about the demographics of your volunteers. I mean, I had a little look before we came online, and there's some really interesting demographics, I think, for your organisation. And tell me how you think maybe digital engagement helps with that a little bit. Do you think?
Yeah, so we have a really diverse set of volunteers. I mean, they are primarily women.
Hmm.
Um,
I had a little check.
uh,
It was 95% women, which I don't think is that surprising. But
yeah,
I mean, that in and of itself is quite interesting. Obviously what the charity does, but that you are predominantly sort of a charity run by women for women it's an unusual sort of
yeah,
setup, but it's quite nice. And do you think the digital sort of elements help that a little bit, or?
yeah. I think just having an ability to kind of stay in good contact with, as I say, like we have 150 volunteers, using knowing exactly who does what, and
Yeah.
emailing people and keeping in touch that way, having people being able to log their own hours rather than having to constantly be chasing timesheets, that sort of thing. It's great to have that kind of digital element to it. And I think quite often you'll tell someone that, oh, we use like an online system for our volunteering. You kind of see a bit of dread in their face. A lot of the people that we work with, they're not necessarily kind of super tech savvy.
Yeah,
And I think then I show it to them and they think, oh, actually, I think I can do. I think I can log my hours and use it. Okay. Obviously, there are difficulties, as there are with anything, but
of course.
just being able to kind of say there is an online system, but I promise it's not that terrible. You can do it. Is really helpful, really.
I mean, the other thing I was thinking as well, in terms of maybe because your offer is so broad, in terms sort of the ability for volunteers to be able to engage, don't necessarily have to necessarily come on site anymore, because it's like, we're in this new post-COVID world. How do you find that works now with using something like Team Kinetic? Does that make life a little bit easier? Do you have a number of roles that you would say fall into that sort of more virtual space rather than the actual physical?
We don't have that many that are kind of more virtual. I think because of the nature of our organization,
Yeah,
a lot of it is hands-on. Unfortunately, you can't virtually cook someone lunch, that sort of thing.
of course.
So
Yeah, it's
uh,
coming, I'm sure.
we do have a few roles that are kind of completed remotely. Like the phone body service,
Mhm.
which obviously during COVID, was so important, and we continue that now. The counselling service can also be done remotely.
Yeah.
So there is, some things that we do remotely, but I would say the majority of our volunteering is that kind of hands-on, in person, kind of having those conversations with people and getting kind of down with the clients.
And tell me a little bit about your COVID experience. How was that for the organisation?
Well, I actually joined the organization in June of this year, so I
Okay.
think I missed the worst of it. But I know that obviously, because of the nature of our organization, the demand increased,
Yeah.
with but everyone had to kind of work from home and navigate that whole setup. I
Yep.
know that our museum had to close. I suppose it wasn't the complete worst time for our museum because we were having it completely redone. We've just relaunched the museum, but
Oh, brilliant.
having to completely redo a museum in the middle of COVID wasn't ideal either.
No.
So yeah, obviously we're now in the process of re-engaging volunteers after COVID.
Yep.
Many people, we just weren't able to keep doing that much with them. We did have volunteers doing some things like doing some research about the history of the
Oh,
organization,
brilliant. Yeah.
and stuff like that virtually whilst we couldn't kind of get them in,
Hmm.
which was fantastic. But yeah, now we're kind of trying to re-engage people. Obviously, we've got them all on the system, so we're not just having to furiously search through previous emails or anything, whilst also trying to recruit and fill in those new roles we've got now.
Have you found most of your volunteers came back, or have you lost a few as a result?
We've had a lot come back.
Well,
We
that's good.
have lost some, but I think that's just, a change in circumstance and the
Hmm.
fact that time had passed,
Yep.
and people's situations had changed. But I think everyone's finding that, aren't they?
A little bit, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's we've recently done a piece with the Heritage Volunteer Group and Make Your Mark in Scotland, talking about this idea of, there's a bit of churn going on, but it's a new opportunity to look at
Mm,
doing things maybe a little bit different than pre-COVID, and looking at those virtual opportunities. People are a bit nervous at coming back and trying to find other ways to engage those younger volunteers that may not be as committed to doing something every week for the rest of their lives, but they do
yeah.
want to get involved in some way, shape, or form. And that was one of the other things I thought was really interesting about your volunteer cohort, is how young they are,
Mm.
which is quite unusual. It's, across all our customers, you've got a really, really young set of, what appear to be really engaged volunteers as well.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, our volunteers, they do span across kind of all ages, but yeah, we have a lot of people who are students, or who are kind of slightly younger, especially in our museum. They're kind of looking to get into that sector, and
Yeah.
it's a great way for them to kind of learn the ropes, whilst also completing their studies. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, that's actually quite interesting that we have kind of that slant to the
Yeah.
younger side of it.
And I think, as well, digital lent itself to those guys because it's where they're used to
Yeah.
operating. So, what I guess we'll talk a little bit about how TeamKinetics helped you. What I know you weren't here when the product was chosen. Do you know anything about some of the history and why the organisation felt TeamKinetic was the right product for those guys when they made
Yeah.
that decision?
You know what? I don't know anything about that conversation. Sorry, that's
Well, I
really
like your honesty,
unhelpful.
yeah, rather than you fudging it. That's absolutely fine. That's not a problem at all.
Sorry. Yeah.
And I guess from your point of view, since you came in, what I don't know what you were doing prior to working for the trust, but how have you found using a system like ours in terms of sort of the day-to-day management of your volunteers?
Yeah, I think just having the ability to like search on a really clear system, like a single volunteer, see everything they've done in the past, see the hours they've done, get an idea of their commitment level,
Yeah,
getting just kind of a bit of an understanding of them as a person. I mean, that's just been fantastic for me, obviously coming into my role. It's helped me so much just to kind of understand the volunteers so much quicker.
yeah,
But then also just being able to create rotas, rather than having to hand out pieces of paper each week for the museum and for our
yeah,
drop-in services, and being able to just send out those kind of group emails to all volunteers, to do a weekly email to all my
yeah.
volunteers, just having been able to do that really easily through a system rather than having to kind of
And
uh,
do you get a good response to those emails generally? Do you find your opportunities, you getting people signing up on their own, or is it still quite a lot of you having to manage people into stuff?
Yeah, I think so the way that we do it is we people obviously have to go through like an induction before they
Yeah.
can be matched up with stuff. So a lot of the time we do the induction and then we have that conversation of what they'd like to do. So a lot of the time it's kind of we agree together for them to sign up to something rather than them
Okay.
signing
Yeah.
up
So it's
on
like a
their own.
guided journey. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which just kind of so I suppose it's slightly different from the intended purpose of the having kind of volunteers sign up on their own, but
Well,
it
we'd
works
like to see
well
a bit of
for
both.
us.
Yeah, we think sometimes
Yeah,
there's room for people to be able to choose themselves, but as you said there, sometimes the roles you're asking them to do, have some quite serious considerations about them. So they need that hand holding, and we don't ignore the fact that sometimes you have to manage people, and sometimes people. It's good if you can let them manage themselves. You get the best of both worlds. You kind of
yeah.
cracked it.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's definitely saved us on like paperwork in terms of getting people to actually getting into those roles, though, which
Yeah.
is really handy.
Yeah, we got told that we were talking to the Royal West of England Academy, and theirs is a gallery rather than a museum, and they were very much talking about that transparency of the roles. Means that when someone comes to you and they've come via a role, they've come via an opportunity. You know a little bit about them by the very fact they've chosen that in the first instance. It just makes that
Exactly.
onboarding journey that little bit smoother and that little bit easier for the volunteer. Um,
Mm.
Interestingly, when we were looking at your data, and I don't know if you've noticed this, we've seen a real spike in your registrations in the last couple of months. I don't know if you knew what that was down to, or is it just with you being enrolled now and sort of coming back from COVID?
Yeah, well, maybe it's all me. No, I think it really is like people coming back from COVID and wanting to re-engage with something that means something to them,
Yeah,
and to get involved in something. I think obviously as well, like to register, it's not difficult.
yeah, yeah,
It doesn't take long. It's just a link on our website and they just fill in that form, which is perhaps it is the fact it's just so easy to show that interest.
yeah,
But I think it's also definitely that kind of uh, people coming from COVID and thinking about what their values are and what they want to do. And I think we just kind of we align well really with that.
yeah.
The difficulty at the moment is finding stuff for all of them to do, to be honest.
Which is a
But
nice problem
that
to have.
comes
That's
exactly.
Yeah, like I say, I was having a look at your data, and your conversion rate generally is pretty strong for an organisation of your type. So you're knocking on the 35% end of, which means you've got some pretty passionate people coming through to the organisation that want to get involved, which is brilliant. But as you rightly say, with these digital systems, it makes it very easy for people to register.
Mm.
But getting them to actual volunteer is sometimes a little bit harder than and making sure you have that balance of how much effort you have to put in at that start, not
Yeah.
to create too many barriers, but to also make sure that they are the right person for the job. It's the dark art of volunteer management, and I don't envy your job sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the digital systems have to go hand in hand with having conversations with
Yeah,
people, doesn't it? So you can get a feel for someone and how keen they really are.
yeah. The analogy I often use is, if you were a farmer and you're doing it on bits of paper, you start still using the old horse-drawn plough. Whereas when you use a system like ours, it's more like using a super duper combine harvester built by sort of Lamborghini. It just gives you the extra tools to make your life a little bit easier.
Exactly,
Um,
yeah.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk to you. It's really interesting to hear about the work you've got going on, and I'm just really glad that you've got lots of new people coming back, because there was a real worry in the middle of lockdown with the heritage
Yeah.
organisers you're working with that they're going to lose a lot of volunteers. So it's really
Mm.
positive to hear that think people are coming back and they're signing up and they're getting involved again. So thank you, Abby. It's been lovely talking to you, and hopefully we'll get to see you in person some point in the near future when
Yeah, imagine that.
we're going to run our yearly conference next year at around Easter time.
Oh,
So we'll
fantastic.
keep you posted, and potentially maybe even get you involved in running a little session on the stuff you guys do.
Oh yeah, no, that would be great. Yeah, that's just to say that's really interesting what you say about kind of the heritage specifically. I think we've definitely found that coming back the heritage side of things, that's been younger people really engaged, and I think we perhaps have seen a bit of the kind of like older demographic on the heritage side drop away and be
It is
replaced with
really
the
interesting, isn't
younger.
it? In that
So yeah,
there's always been this. myth, if you will, or belief that younger people don't want to volunteer and it's only older people that are retired and
Yeah.
have got the time. But I think if you have the right offer and you make it interesting enough and you're in the right place, and you guys are very lucky because you're very close to the universities, aren't you? So
Yeah.
you're well placed for sort of young people at that next step who are looking for that career path. But still, if you have the right offer, and I was looking at some of the opportunities you've got on offer, you can attract the right audience. It's about building an offer to suit the audience that you're trying to attract, rather
Yeah.
than just relying on the fact that the same people turning up all the time. And I think you guys have got that nailed on as an organisation. So well done and keep it up. Uh,
Thank
on a
you.
slightly different note, I'm going to bring my daughter along to the museum because
Oh
at,
yeah.
at her school she's in the Pankhurst house. So
Oh wow.
she's very engaged with. Oh, she's really interested in Emily Pankhurst and the whole movement. So I'll be bringing her along to check it out now it's all been done up.
Oh, fantastic. Do you know when you're coming yet?
Not yet. I need to have a chat with her. We've got a couple of busy weekends, but we're going to try and get it done before Christmas. So I'll drop you an email and let you know.
Oh yeah, do. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right then.
fantastic.
We'll see you then probably.
Definitely. Okay. Take
All right.
care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.